Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics on Right. I'm Egberto, Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have, as usual, a great show for you today. How's everybody doing? I trust all's doing just fine. Welcome aboard. We have in the house, starting out, AVQ El Señor Radnet from Brooklyn, New York. Welcome aboard. Patrick Magna from Houston, Texas says meow. Welcome aboard. We also have in the house Yvette Avery Herod. Good afternoon, Yvette. How are you doing from Atlanta, Georgia? We have Eric Hayes from Kingwood, Atascocita in the house. Joe from Los Angeles, California in our chat for, of course, we're talking about Substack, which starts pretty late, so we don't get the people in the beginning. We got to say hello to Katia Harrington. Welcome aboard, as well as Douglas McKay. Welcome aboard. Marge K says, I just heard that the sexual predators felon will be going on the streets of D.C. with military. Lev Cohen and Malcolm Nance were talking. Lev, yeah, I interviewed Lev a few times. Cohen, I haven't gotten to him yet, but Nance we're talking, really laughing about this. It is really, really funny, isn't it? Anyway, we also have Paul Fleming from Powder Springs, Georgia. Dr. James Dobson. Oh, what a loss. What a loss. What a loss. This guy has promoted more hate than anybody I've known. I think the earth is one person less hateful at this point in time. I hate to say it that way, but it is an absolute fact. Bridge MCP is in the house from Binghamton, New York. Welcome, Bridge. How you doing? Beautiful. We're going to have a lot to talk about today. We also have an interview on UBI, basic income, that I did out of New Orleans, Louisiana, for the Netroots Nation conference. But anyhow, let's go ahead and start with what you've got. Michael Rudnin says, I need to go buy a new computer. 5080 finally hit MSRP. Been waiting on this for months. Go hit it. Go hit it, buddy. Go hit it. Michael Rudnin says, Egberto, once again, repeating from yesterday and the day before yesterday, and we've still not gotten an answer from any of our conservatives in the chat. Second chances, no deflections, no whataboutism, answer straight. And this question is not only from Rudnin, it's from all of us. The question is, would you still vote for Trump if, when proof comes out that he's a pedophile, and to add the corollary from Joanne, if he's a sex trafficker by inference? It's that simple. It is that simple. No ifs, no buts. And why did Rudnin ask that question? Because Snopes reflected a poll that said 47% of Republicans would still vote for Trump, even if implicated in Epstein's crime, survey found. Epstein's crime. So, Joe, remember, that didn't say if it was proven he's a pedophile. It says if he was implicated in Epstein's crime, which I would assume includes the trafficking you spoke about yesterday. So I think it's something that we all need to be cognizant of. Welcome aboard, Mark Diller. Thank you for being here. As more people join in, as more people chime in. Let's see what else we've got here. Lee Grant is in the house. Hello, Lee Grant from Montgomery County. Carl Cox is in from Riverdale, Georgia. Welcome aboard. And Joe says they cannot within themselves excuse the pimping. Shame. From Paul Fleming at Newsbreaking, the Trump administration says it's reviewing all 55 million people with U.S. visas for potential deportable violations. I don't know what Donald Trump thinks he's doing, but go ask all people along the Canadian border. Go ask all the Republican businesses along the Canadian border. What's happening on the Canadian border? These businesses that were dependent on people crossing the border into, whether it's Michigan, whether it's in all those Montana, all these other places that are no longer coming and buying breakfast, no longer doing a lot of things that they did in America because they have no trust in America any longer. America is on many countries' leadership. They're advising their citizens not to go to the United States because it's a clear and present danger for people who look different. Many countries are telling folks don't come to America. And you know what? They're obliging. Tourism is down. So the tourism industry down. Prices for products because of Donald Trump's tariffs up. Donald Trump tells you guys, I am making over $30 billion or so every month because of the tariffs other countries are paying. He's lying to you because you are paying those tariffs. You are paying those tariffs. And you know what? Slowly and surely, people will assign blame where blame belongs. And while the sycophants will continue their sycophancy, it will remain the same. Breach says, Egberto, Willies, lots and lots of people from upstate New York, months now. Yes, I know. Egberto, have you noticed a conservative in the chat are silent? None can bring themselves to answer it when Trump is shown as a pedophile or sex trafficker. Would you still vote for him? Their silence speaks volumes about what kind of people they are. Earlier, I said, and I mentioned this, and I said this with no hesitation. When one learns the truth of evil being done in their name, and they continue to support said evil, Hillary Clinton's deplorable come into the fold. And I don't think there are two ways about that. Sandra Dingler, welcome aboard, sister. And I think we have to come to that realization that, yes, there are people out there who, because of a wiring in their mind that one has to wonder how suspect it is, they just can't come about doing the right thing. Joe says, of course, unless it was about the demon-possessed educated people. I'm not exaggerating. Yep. Maywood from Long Beach, California, welcome aboard. Love to have you here. PM4455, they are going to imprison debtors. Wow. I want to see that. Most Americans will get imprisoned because, as it turns out, most Americans continue to fall behind. If you doubt it, let's look at what is sanctioned by Donald Trump and his... Look, actually, I said sanctioned by Donald Trump. I shouldn't give neoliberals a pass on this either. I should not give neoliberals a pass on this. And let me go to the actual article from Common Dreams, and we'll start there, and then we'll go into the piece that I have, the video that I want to play for you guys. But let's start here. This is very important. Let's put that on the screen. Para ver, está en el screen. There we go. Corporate greed at its ugliest. These 100 companies pay CEOs over 600 times what the workers get. At a time when many Americans workers are struggling with high costs for groceries and housing, the nation's largest low-wage employers are fixated on making their overpaid CEOs even richer, detailing the widening gap between outrageously high CEO compensation and the median wages of employees at some of the world's largest and most profitable companies. A progressive think tank on Thursday warned executives will continue to enrich themselves at the expense of their lower-paid workers unless policies are adapted to curb such worker greed. Remember, all monies that are made by any CEO was generated on your back. Are you a Walmart cashier? Are you a Walmart stocker? Are you a Walmart janitor? Are you a Walmart clinic operator? All that profit is made on your back. Across the political spectrum, Americans are fed up with overpaid CEOs, said Sarah Anderson, program director at the Institute of Policy Studies. But Americans, yes, you're pissed off that this is occurring, but it is also your responsibility. It is also your responsibility to go out there and vote your interests. Don't be fooled by all the ancillary issues. Don't be fooled by the trans issue. Don't be fooled by the gay issue. Don't be fooled by the feminism, by the woke, all these, by all these silly things that are made for you to take your eye off of the ball. Oh, critical race theory. Forget it. It's all to keep you riled up on fallacies. Don't be, slavery. They're talking about slavery. They're making America look bad. Disregard it. It's all to get you in the wrong frame of mind. The report, Executives Excess 2025, finds that absent federal policies forcing corporations to rein in their spending on stock buybacks and exorbitant CEO pay packages, the average CEO to worker pay gap widened by 12.9% last year. At the IPS calls the low wage 100, the 100 S&P 500 companies with the lowest median worker pay. Now, the average gap between executive and worker pay now stands at 632 to 1 at these firms, up from 560 to 1 in 2023. Between 2019 and 24, the average CEO pay at the low-wage 100 companies saw their pay rise 34.7% unadjusted for inflation, while the average median worker pay rose just 16.3%. CEO compensation increased by 22.6% over the time period, far outpacing inflation. Meanwhile, wage hikes by these companies didn't even match inflation, including for warehouse workers and software company Aptiv, where the CEO to worker gap was 2,072 to 1 last year. Or cashiers at Ross stores, where the gap was 1,770 to 1. This is what you vote for. This is what you vote for. Starbucks, which has made headlines in recent years, both for its stores' employees' fight to unionize across the United States and for its executives' illegal union busting tactics, had far the largest gap between CEO median worker pay in 2024, with CEO Brian Nicole taking home $95.8 million for doing what? Why does a CEO of a coffee shop earn $95.8 million and the median employee income was just $14,674? You have to be, for us to continue tolerating this, it says something about us if we don't fight it now. If we don't get all of those neoliberals out of office, if we don't get all of those MAGA out of office, if we don't get all of those neoconservatives out of office, this is why these CEOs continue to support these folks. This is the reason why. Because they can get away with this. A petition organized by last year's Starbucks Workers United, which has unionized hundreds of stores since the landmark victory in Buffalo, New York in 2021, warned Nickel that the cost of living across the U.S. is skyrocketing while you continue to make millions, and employees who actually make your Starbucks run can't make ends meet. All these people, think about it. The money every CEO makes is made on the back of those underpaid workers. All of it, not some of it, all of it. You may say, but some of that are stock options and appreciation. Absent the workers doing their work, there ain't no stock appreciation or stock options. Let's go ahead and turn those stock appreciations and options into collectivism and pay the workers out of that instead of giving that en masse to the corporate masters. Seems logical to me. The people who made it happen should be the ones making the money. Don't you think? Don't you think? Anyway, the article, I'm going to leave. I'm not going to read the entire article. I'm going to leave the article in both chats. It's an important article to read. Please read it and share it. And of course, you can share the program as well. Welcome aboard, Beth Andrews, David McLanahan, and Beth Andrews, Jennifer Hunter. Welcome aboard. Lois Rollins, Joanne. Welcome aboard. Let's see somebody here in New York. Para ver. Sorry about that. Anyway, so let's be cognizant of these things. Like I told my folks this morning on the show, we are in control. Egberto, yes, share to Blue Sky. Thank you very much for doing that. U.S. lowest paid firm. Thank you for doing that, Michael Rudnin. Very important. Paul Fleming says organizers behind the Correct the Map campaign say the Mercator map shrinking of Africa minimizes the continent's global influence and is just plain inaccurate. You're absolutely right about that map. I mean, I want to put that on the screen. That is so far from the reality. If you want to see how many continents fit into Africa, check this out. Let me put that in there. How many continents fit into Africa? And then you have to ask your question. Let's go ahead and it says map. There we go. Here are some of the things that I wanted you to see. Look at that picture. Inside of all of Africa, you fit the USA, all those countries, those big countries, you fit inside of Africa. Let's see if I can blow that up some. There it is. There it is. So let's be very, very clear, right? Africa isn't what folks would like you to believe. It's a lot bigger than it is. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity or giving me the impetus to go ahead and point that out. How does a map indicate global influence? He's talking about size, okay? He's talking about size. And in the case, if you have a lot of land mass, along with that land mass, one of the impressions or one of the assumptions are that said land mass has a lot of resources. And in fact, the richest continent is in fact Africa by resource. Absolutely, the richest by resource is Africa. All right, what else have we got here? Parabed. Lee Grant says, how does... no, I did that already. Paul Fleming says, most people think Russia is the largest country, but it is a continent of Africa. Africa it has many countries, but Russia is, in fact, pretty damn large. I can find, I think, 11 time zones or something like that. But does it economy commensurate with its size? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Michael Jack says the Mercator projection has made people think Europe is bigger than it is and that Africa is smaller than it is. Very true. Patrick Magnus said, and Africa has ton of resources, more so than anywhere else. South America does also and concentrated under the lands of Venezuela. That is why the imperialists, the capitalists, give them that much trouble because they don't want the democratization of the natural resources of Venezuela, Colombia, and all these other countries. So what do? They make sure to create chaos in these countries. Niger Delta, one of many areas, exactly. And not only that, Patrick, some of your best oil, your sweetest oil, not like the Venezuela sulfur-filled oil, right? That only plants in the United States can handle effectively. But anyway, I want you to listen to a particular to this interview on universal basic income, and then we'll move on to our next subject. Let's go ahead and do that right now. Welcome to another edition of Politics and Random. Egberto, Willies, your host. Today we are once again with Conrad Shaw from Commingle. It seems like we meet almost every year because you've been working on this big project, an important project. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, it's been a long time. It started in 2016 with the docu-series we're working on called Bootstraps. Mm-hmm. And Bootstraps set out to sort of explore the realities of people in America and their economic lives through the lens of universal basic income. Mm-hmm. Specifically through that lens, because when we look at this issue of basic income, which is a regular cash floor, like a baseline income for everyone in society, mm-hmm. as opposed to starting at zero, the main question that comes up at the heart of it all is like, can we trust people? Mm-hmm. Like, what do people do? It's a human behavioral question, human nature question. And so the purpose of the series was to explore that. Mm-hmm. And so we followed 11 different households, 20 different people for 2.5 years getting a basic income just to sort of see, like in a fly-on-the-wall manner, what do they do? How does it affect their lives? And then in the end, like that finished filming. We're still editing, hopefully coming out next year, 2026. And in the interim, I've worked on a bunch of other projects, and one notable one is Commingle.
Mm-hmm.
And Commingle is a web app that we're developing, a web platform that we're developing to allow a solidaristic mutual aid version of basic income. Essentially, instead of being funded by philanthropy, government, like let's build it ourselves.
Right.
Where everyone chips in and pools a certain percentage of their income to create this basic income floor for every member. Yeah.
I think I want to dispel something, because I think what your first study has proven is that whereas people think that the general nature of people is to freeload, you all learned something completely different when you implemented your first basic income project.
Yeah, and this is something, I mean, we started this because I believed in the potential of the idea, but I really wanted to kick the tires, see what the shortfalls might be. And I was generally grappling the entire time with just how well it worked. You see a lot of things out in the world where people are withdrawn, lazy, self-destructive for whatever reasons. And then in not just our small experiment with 20 people, but in like large pilots in general, people keep working, people have less vices, commit less crime, better health. Why does it just keep working so much? And how does that square with this idea of human nature, including things like laziness, apathy? Why wouldn't people check out when they had more comfort? Right? And the basic takeaway that I have is that it's only in sort of a scarcity environment, in a competitive environment, that like we're so stressed with the survival of stuff that a little comfort feels like I can relax a little, I can take it easy. But I think what really drives most people is fundamentally the desire to matter, to have purpose in the world.
And that is such a human not a condition, but a human feeling, right? That's how we are. We don't want to just exist. We want to do something.
We're not, like, economists tend to make assumptions that we're all utility maximizers. Like, essentially that means we're all these robots who our primary function and drive is to accumulate as much stuff as possible with as little work as possible. But the problem with that is that in reality, human beings are purpose-driven creatures, social connection-driven creatures. We all want to answer the question for ourselves every day, every week, for the rest of our lives. What is the reason I'm on this planet? Like, why am I here? Did I make the world a better place? At our eulogies and our weddings, like we want the speeches about us to be how we matter to people. That's the main thing human beings really care about. And when you see people withdrawing from society connection, I think it's largely because their vision of how they would matter has been sort of squashed. Like, they've been told to fill a role that they don't see as like what they want to be in their life, their time on this planet. So they withdraw, they turn to drugs, they turn to whatever. Whereas if you give people unconditional cash, that is just power to say whatever you think is important, pursue that.
I think you nailed it there, and I think that's what a lot of folks don't understand. A lot of times I talk about, and I don't want to get into the capitalism argument, but I speak about capitalism a lot, and on about the premises that it's based on, etc. And if you take a detailed look at things, maybe that is the issue. Maybe the people writing those rules on what they believe the utility is, or what a human being would do absent some sort of a scarcity, maybe they're the ones who are, and I say this with respect, maybe they're the ones who are the psychopaths, that they are just articulating how they really are.
I mean, it's a harsh word, but there is an element of psychopathy or maybe sociopathy in like viewing human beings as these accumulation robots. Right? There is a disconnection from humanity and the real human condition there that, it can get glossed over in the fact that you're getting it out of an economic textbook that's academic.
Yes.
But it really does miss I don't want to say soft science, but like the actual real world application of human behavior, both individually and at an aggregate scale, and like you can't just turn people into balance sheet numbers because they don't.
Right.
We don't behave that way.
But then those who do that, right? I mean, in Houston, we just had a group of, well, it ultimately went to our Supreme Court, who stopped a commissioner from actually implementing some sort of basic income
Right.
on on the way taxpayer dollars were going to be used, and it made no sense. But it comes from that same premise that somehow these people are not worthy, or given or given that money to these people is unearned, not realizing that these people themselves, with their low earnings, maybe they are actually contributing more to society and being able to have others make on their low earnings.
I think so. There's a lot of nuance here. That's not only the only ban that's
Right.
gone on and legal attack on basic income programs.
Right.
And one thing for me personally that's different than a lot of people in the basic income guaranteed movement space is I'm pretty committed to the idea of universalism.
Right.
Whereas,
Explain. People don't
so
understand
universalism is the idea that this applies to everybody.
Right.
Right. We start everyone in society at this universal floor. Like that appeals to me
Right.
as a former engineer as the elegance of delivery.
Exactly.
Right. Whereas if you have a lot of times like a guaranteed income program,
Right.
will avoid using that term because it's specifically targeted and
Right.
like to some demographic, some
Right.
group. And a lot of times that comes from the fact that funding is limited, small thing, let's pick a very specific demographic to test this on, and
Right.
that makes sense. But if you're trying to imagine something at scale, you can't really scale that up without it behaving similar to other targeted welfare programs that miss a lot of people, that create a lot of resentment. So the basis of a lot of these legal attacks that are in many cases successful is that you're using government dollars for those people and not us.
Exactly.
And like, why are they needy and I'm not? I'm
Right.
struggling. And so it creates this resentment, whereas a universalist mindset, it's very similar to universal healthcare.
Right.
Actually, is like, we all have these basic human needs. We all apply. And the thing to really understand about a universalist mechanism that confuses people is they think, well, why would we give it to everybody? I don't want to give extra money
Right.
to Bill Gates. He doesn't need it.
Right.
And UBI, a better way to understand UBI is it's not universal extra income. It's a universal baseline
Basic, right.
of income. So it's basically saying we all start there instead of zero,
Right.
level playing field. But in order to fund it, whatever, you would couple it with extra taxes that by the time Bill Gates starts, reaching escape velocity with his, like he's paid it back
Right.
and then some.
Right.
And that's one of the things we want to show with our web platform,
Right.
Commingle, is that this is actually designed like a tax-funded mechanism,
Right.
where it's a mechanism for everyone to pool their income on a percentage basis. So if you and I are each chipping in, it's like just the two of us are doing this
Right.
platform. We're each chipping in 7% of our income,
Right.
and then splitting it and taking back this equal amount.
Right.
Then if I make more than you, I'm putting in more than I'm getting back, and you're putting in less than you're getting back.
Yeah.
It's sort of like a way to pool some percentage of your income so that there is at least that floor. So if you had no income, you would get some amount.
People need to understand that that is an interesting way of doing it. It's a percentage of the income that is actually creating the average floor.
Right. So in that paradigm, hopefully we can help answer that question much more quickly and intuitively. Is like,
Right.
why would you give to Bill Gates? If you're looking at Commingle and it's up and running, like this is also a 2026 thing. But if it's up and running in 2026 and
Right.
Bill Gates joins, everyone's gonna
Go like
yeah,
Because he's going to take out the
He's gonna-
very least.
he's gonna pay
Right.
like the amount he chips in will pay for 1,000 people's
Maybe a
Commingle
million.
payout. Because he still gets that $50 a week,
Yeah.
but he's also putting in $50 million or whatever,
yeah, right.
because he is such an extremely high earner
Exactly.
that he still benefited from that same starting floor as everybody, but we tax it back. And using the tax system to take back what isn't actually needed from the people who got the benefit
Right.
is a much more elegant way to handle targeting, like targeting on the back end. Because when you target
Right.
on the front end, say, who is going to prove to me that they're needy enough to need this
Right.
thing and deserve this thing? What ends up happening in practice is you have a much more bureaucratic and expensive system, and it struggles to even reach half of the people it's supposed to get to.
Exactly. Conrad, what should I have asked you that I didn't?
I could plug a few things that people could check out.
Well, please do.
So Commingle is commingle.us. Bootstraps is bootstrapstv.com. And sort of our foundational hub that supports all of it is the Income to Support All Foundation, which is, the acronym is ITSA. So it's a foundation.org. It's easy to remember because what is UBI? It's a foundation.
There you go.
It's a foundation.org. If you want to learn more about any of this stuff, just go to itsafoundation.org.
Conrad Shaw, once again we meet. Thank you so kindly for the good work you're doing.
Yeah.
Keep that up, because we need people that are thinking outside of the box. Keep that up. Thank you so kindly for having been on Politics and Right.
Thanks for having me again.
Excellent.
I'll see you next year.
See you next year. I'll see him next year, assuming I'm here, very important. Anyway, there's a piece that I think I saw Eric pointed out that actually needs to be addressed. And it goes as follows. He said, and bear with me as I search for it, because it goes with that thought process that we talk about a lot. Replying to Paul Fleming, China is the world's largest. No, that's not the one, but it does have to do with China. And I think it's important. Some say, I think is how he started it. Some say, bear with me as I look for it, but I really want to address that, because unaddressed, too many people look at it out in the wrong form. Bear with me, guys. I'm getting there. Anyway. Carl Cox says China is winning because America for many years only wants the agricultural or mineral wealth of countries, don't build roads, hospitals, etc. And then, and that, by the way, that is true. We extract all these countries, imperialist countries, and including China to some extent. They're extractive, but some don't, right? Some don't. Yeah, March KJ, he's a great guy. I meet with Conrad almost every year for the last, I don't know how many Netroots nations that we've actually gone to. First, let me just read something. Eric says, China is the world's largest consumer of primary material, construction materials, ores, etc. China's total energy consumption is higher than the United States. In 2024, China's primary energy consumption was 178 exajoules, while the United States was 95.5 exajoules. When I tell you that we ought to work on critical thinking, right? What's the population of the United States again? 330 million people. What's the population of China again? Let's call it 1.2 billion, if not more. So China is about 4 times the population of the United States, but uses less than twice the energy of the United States. How is efficiency defined as again? Which country is more efficient in energy use again per capita? Again, critical thinking. You can't just, it's easy to just throw those numbers out. It's the same that we have when it comes to climate change and who's causing climate change, right? Many people would say, well, look, China is putting more carbon in the air than the United States. And then you go ahead and you look at it and it's like, yeah, in today's day, China may be putting more carbon than the United States. Is it putting more carbon per capita? No. The other question is, by the way, there is a lot of carbon from the Industrial Revolution up in the air right now. If we were to add up all the carbon in the air, and there's a chart for this, Michael Rudnin, I'm waiting for you to find the chart for me, that shows you the amount of carbon in the air and how much the United States, Great Britain, China, and these other countries are responsible for. And it will shock you. Our responsibility for the amount of carbon in the air is quite a bit. And therefore, as such, we have a bigger responsibility to climate change. We can't ask developing countries, hey, stop with your carbon. Stop putting more carbon in the air than we are. How can we do that when our wealth was generated by all that carbon we threw up into the air? Of course, the rest of the world is going to say, to hell with you. You need to do more. And you need to pay us not to put more carbon into the air. It's the only fair thing to do. You have to critically think, folks. You have got to critically think. I can't find the item from Eric, but the other thing that he talks is about, well, people say that what goes on in China is that China goes into these places and give these people a lot of debt, which is true. They build their roads with debt from that country, and that country pays the debt back in the natural resources. Far different than all the magical instruments used with the International Monetary Fund that pretty much rapes countries around the world. Ask Argentina, ask Chile, ask all these countries whose the IMF told them you have to go into severe, not just sequestration, but severe austerity and put your people in pain to pay the capitalist countries for the loan they're extorting out of you. Come on, folks. Again, but you don't learn that in the United States. Why? Because as Donald Trump wants you to do, he doesn't want you to learn history. He wants you to learn a sanitized version of a history that never existed. That's what he wants you to learn. And too many of you are comfortable with putting your heads in the sand. And we have to be human enough to understand that putting our heads in the sand does very, very little to do it. Okay, Michael has the chart. Let me get to the chart. Here is a chart. I'm going to put that on the screen right now. And that it is. Countries that have emitted the most CO2 emissions to date. Each country's share of global cumulative CO2 emissions since 1750. That's close to the Industrial Revolution in the 1800s, right? This measure of fossil fuel and industry emission, land use is not included. The United States, 24% of the population, 4% of the population. We have thrown 24% of the carbon into the air. China, which represents a lot more, probably 20% of the world population or so, and they put 15%, less than we did, into the atmosphere. And then you can go down. Russia, Germany, UK, Japan, India. All the Western countries have put more carbon into the air commensurate with their population. Or rather, not commensurate with their population. But the big companies, the big countries, India, look at India. India is 3.5%. India has about the same amount of people, if not a little bit more than China. And how much has it thrown into the air? 3.5%. Yeah, that talks about how much industrial development they've had. It's amazing. And Patrick nails it. China is investing in more renewables, so their joules comparison is inaccurate for carbon comparison. Very, very good point. That's why we say, Patrick, statistics are an interesting thing to look at, right? You need to know what you're talking about before you just go ahead and spew it out. Before you go spew it out, the nonsense you gotta explain before the nonsense go out. All right. I want to point out something. I want you guys to see this video, and then we'll talk about it. Let me get I want to put something else on the screen here. Bear with me as I prepare myself for it. Preparing for 2 shows a day. I'm not complaining, but I just want you to know that it takes a whole lot of bandwidth. And sometimes it just you get all whatever. So anyway, but you know what? This is what we do. This is what we must do. This is what we must do. So here we go. I saw a TikTok video. And after I saw that TikTok video, like I said, I follow a lot of people, good folks that have fact-based information. And what TikTok does is it rewards you by sending you other people giving that kind of info. And of course, I fact-checked everything. And I did with this as well. I want you to listen to this woman. And for all of you who have corporate insurance, corporate health insurance, I want you guys to listen to this lady. And then I'm going to go over a few things with you. All right? So let's go ahead first and listen to what she has to say. Where is that at?
My insurance company is lying to me. I've been fighting with my insurance company all year to...
Wait, I want to get it in the right context. I want to put it in here. So let's do it here. Because I want you to be able to see the video as well. So let's do this. Come on, Egberto. I am going to get to it in a minute. We are going to get to it. I promise you. Favorites. And here we go. I want you to listen to this woman in detail.
My insurance company is lying to me. I've been fighting with my insurance company all year to get them to cover a expensive but necessary surgery. And I was interviewed a few weeks ago on NBC to talk about the fact that my insurance continues to deny my expensive surgery. NBC reached out to Cigna, my insurance company, to ask for a comment. And in their public comment, they stated that they had a lipedema specialist, which is what I have, look at my case and determine that I don't have it. Now, that's the first I heard of them having a specialist look at my case. So after the interview goes live, I call Cigna and I say, hey, I'd love some information. I'd like to know who this doctor is, what their specialty is. I'd just like to confirm that this is a lipedema specialist, since I've had two diagnoses by other lipedema specialists. So I'm confused. I spent hours on hold, and lo and behold, that person doesn't exist. They made it up. So I submit a complaint with my state insurance commissioner, because that's illegal to have your insurance company lie to you. Cigna's response to the state insurance commissioner was that my plan was self-funded, so it doesn't fall under Utah's jurisdiction. And if I want to do anything about it, I need to appeal to the federal government. So of course, I email my insurance broker and ask them what this means. And they tell me it's not self-funded, it's level funded. I bring this information back to the Utah Insurance Board and ask them what that means. And they tell me level funded health insurance is not health insurance. It doesn't count as health insurance. What this means is that if you have employer-funded insurance, if you're getting insurance through your employer, it's likely not considered insurance by the government. They call it an employer benefit. Why call it insurance if it's not insurance? Obviously, this is my situation in my state and my insurance provider, but if you have employer-funded insurance, I would definitely make sure that that is actually considered insurance by your state, just in case you get into a tricky situation like me. My insurance company is lying.
All right. Okay. So what I did, of course, like I told you guys, I take nothing at face value. Reputation is everything, and credibility is everything. So I went and did the research. Spent quite a bit of time on it. So here's what I found. Yes, it is true that some employer-funded health insurance isn't deemed insurance by states. Some employer-funded health coverage is not legally considered insurance under federal or state law, and this creates confusion for workers. The issue usually arises with self-funded employer health plans and certain limited benefit plans. So here's how it goes. Self-funded plans. Many large employers do not actually buy a health insurance policy for their workers. Instead, they set aside money to directly pay medical claims themselves, often hiring a private insurer like Aetna, Cigna, or United Healthcare only to administer the plan. These arrangements are called self-funded ERISA plans, regulated under the Federal Employee Retirement Income Security Act. because they're not technically insurance, states cannot regulate them the same way they regulate traditional insurance companies. That means that the state consumer protections, such as mandated coverage for certain services, often don't apply. That's why they could lie to her. Limited benefit or accepted benefit plans. Some employers offer mini-med plans, fixed indemnity coverage, or supplemental accident disease policies. These are not considered comprehensive insurance under the Affordable Care Act. They don't have to meet requirements like covering pre-existing conditions. Essential health benefits are providing an annual out-of-pocket maximum. In many states, regulators explicitly warn that these arrangements are not true health insurance, even though workers may assume they are. The consequences? Workers may believe they are insured only to find out their plan excludes major categories of care. States often cannot intervene if the employer plan is self-funded, leaving federal law as the only protection. Insurance companies acting as third-party administrators can give the impression of traditional insurance, but legally, they aren't on the hook for the risk. Your employer is. Some states have sued or issued advisories about deceptive marketing of non-insurance products bundled with employment. In short, yes, in many cases, what looks like employer-provided insurance is not considered insurance under the law. It's a loophole born of ERISA, preemption, and ACA carve-outs. That's the Affordable Care Act carve-outs. And it weakens consumer protections for millions of workers. So I want you guys to understand this. These things this is real. So what I did is I then did a search, right? I did a search and I said, let me find out of well-known companies that people think they have great insurance from. Do they really? So I checked out these companies, and here are the big companies. IBM, their insurance plans are self-funded. Are they considered insurance by states? Are they not considered insurance by states? They're not insurance according to states. Intel, self-funded plan, not considered insurance by states? Yes, they're not considered insurance by states. Boeing, yes, they are self-funded, not considered insurance by states. Yes. Walmart. Let me just put that up on the screen so that you guys can actually see the what I'm doing here. Para ver. Let me get that out here. Put it on the screen just so you can see that I'm just calling these out. Walmart, self-funded plan, yes, not considered insurance by state. So all this stuff is saying you have no state recourse. Cigna, well, that's different because Cigna, it says yes by 80%. And then, of course, CVS Health. So I think it's important for us to understand that with all the advances we made, ABC Radio, I don't know, Joe, I'll have to look that one up, but but with all the advances we've made in healthcare, the corporations, even as they were formed, even as we were putting the ACA together, they all went out there to say, allow us to screw the American people one more time. Think about it. I want you guys to think about where we're at. The only answer is Medicare for all. That's the only thing that covers everything and says they can't pull these shenanigans over us. Medicare for all. Americans, my brothers and my sisters, we have to start demanding. People say, we can't get Medicare for all. There are too many stakeholders that want otherwise. That's not true. We have 330 million stakeholders and a few hundred insurance companies that are stakeholders. We are in command if we use our power. We are in command if we use our power. And it is essential that we do so, because this is bankrupting Americans. Americans are living their lives to pay bills to enrich a few. All those raises in healthcare costs, inflation in healthcare costs, is simply additional growth for the wealthy. Remember that. The extra money you pay for healthcare, the extra money you pay for all these services every year, that isn't that these services inherently cost more. That is because the wealthy who own the stocks in these companies want a growth rate that is larger than the growth rate of the economy. And when you have a growth rate in one section larger than the economy, that is a definition of how one gets inflation. So we pay more so that the wealthy can have a bigger piece of the pie. And as the pie, you look at the pie, and as the small amount of people who are wealthy keeps getting a bigger piece of that pie, the multitude, the many of the rest of us continue to get less. That's a rentier's economy. That is an economy of indentured servitude. That's an economy of the antiseptically enslaved. And I don't say this to be I don't say this to be hyperbolic. I say this because this is the way it is, and there's only one way to change this, and we all have the power to do it, and we can start right now. Lisa Randall says 600 medical bankruptcies in 2024. No insurance companies is what she stands for, and we should have Medicare for all. Absolutely everything that you've said, I've concurred. I have time to take a couple of calls. 281-823-7747. Again, that number is 281-823-7747. Let me go ahead and copy that and put that in the chat. Anybody wants to call for a second or two? We have time for probably a couple of calls. 281-823-7747. Folks, I know a lot of people, when we talk about all these issues, they feel a sense of despair. I get a sense of encouragement that I'm able to use a platform to get to you both here on radio, on air, on internet, and elsewhere to make a difference. And that's what we intend to do. Brother Ray Brackens, talk to me.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I had a busy weekend. I was out in Austin, advocating for our rights.
Right.
And
you went on the buses, I know.
The stand of, yeah, and I also I went back again as a separate road trip, in support of Ms. Collier, Representative Collier.
Excellent.
And, I heard, unfortunately, I heard some criticism of her particular situation from another well-known activist, and that kind of hurt my feelings, because it's like,
what did they say? I'm curious. You don't have to tell me the name of the activist, but what did they say?
He was just kind of saying, like, it's her fault. She shouldn't have came back. Now she can't wash, all kind of things like that. Just kind of really going in, and, I respect this activist. So, I mean, I just, hated to see somebody tearing down a representative, who shares a lot with them, in that case. But with that being said, I believe in that situation, she did what she thought, as a human, we make mistakes, was the best thing to do. And I say, for all intents and purposes, she was, asserting her right as a human being, as an American, as a Texan. She had broken no laws, so why is she being treated like a criminal?
Exactly.
Again. But back to that guy you were talking to about the UBI. He made some good points. If we could create a system where nobody feels like, hey, those people got it, why didn't I? And I'm struggling just as much as they are. If we had a way to stop with this crab in the bucket mentality, where we feel like we can't let anybody get ahead because we have to pull them down in order to get ahead, and that's where we would find some type of progress. But they will always preach that there's not enough, there's scarcity. Those people, whoever those people are, there's going to always be another group of people don't deserve that because they haven't. It's everything is, we like to say merit based, but sometimes, if this is the country we truly want it to be, we should have certain benefits like a UPI that says, if you live in this country and you have a name and you have a heartbeat and a pulse, you are entitled to at least have this much money in your pocket. Now, what you do after that, that's on you. But you actually have something to start with.
Let me add to that, okay? Because some people think it's a giveaway. It's no giveaway. It solves a problem of a failed economic system. All right. And to just give an example, I've always told you all that billionaires have money that they've built on the backs of people. A Walmart worker who is on welfare, while their CEO makes 600 times what they made, that is a defect in the economic system. That is a defect that we have allowed that to occur. That person didn't do any innovation. That CEO didn't innovate anything to deserve that money. When Starbucks CEO makes $98 million and the barista makes $15,000 a year, that is ridiculous. Again, all the money that CEO makes is a piece of the action that barista generated. The same goes with stockbrokers. A stockbroker moves around stocks on something that doesn't create anything. The stockholder is sitting down at their park at a beach or whatever, doing absolutely nothing, as workers are out there working and making money, and they're getting a piece of that action. And they want an increased every year. They don't just want to make a dividend. They want to make an appreciation every year. That only occurs since that appreciation and that dividend that they make is greater than the economic growth. That means they constantly take more from society as the rest. That means we constantly become more and more into indentured servitude. People don't like to hear these things, but these are mathematical results that we have to find ways in which to explain it that people understand. But it's 4:00 and I got to go, Ray. So thank you so kindly for your call, my brother, and for bringing these issues up. Okay?
All right, brother. I'll keep watching and I'll see you tomorrow.
Absolutely, folks. Now, folks, we're at the end of the show. I want to ask you to please support the program however you can. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter is the way to subscribe to our program. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. I'm putting that in both chats right now. Please consider becoming a paid subscriber. We work very hard to bring you stuff that you may not have known, that you have not known fully, that we need to know so that we can intelligently protest against the system to make sure the system changes. That is what we do. That is what we ensure. I'm going to have a more detailed write-up on the insurance stuff in the next blog that I write. So look out for it. The newsletter is coming out that will give you some more information on this. Very important for you to know it. When you start talking about why you need Medicare for all, talk about the holes in the ACA, talk about the holes in healthcare altogether, talk about the bankruptcies that we have. It is important that we do that. Anyway, got to get out of here. Love you all. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Ow! All of our country's problems, from polarization to ignorance on domestic and international issues to a complete misunderstanding of our economic and healthcare systems, are a direct result of a derelict mainstream media that too often bend over backwards to support corporate or bought politicians' wants as opposed to the people's needs for real information to make their lives better. Independent media is the only solution to inform truthfully and factually. Why? Because our loyalties are to you, the ones who fund us with small dollar contributions and subscriptions. Please consider supporting our independent media platforms by subscribing to our Egberto Off the Record newsletter at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. It's an investment that pays incalculable dividends.